Europe builds and it builds well.
We have the founders and the stories to prove it.
I'm Mathilda Nathan, founder of Born,
And I'm Niko Efstathiou, journalist and author.
and together we'll be co hosting some of Europe's greatest founders.
Join us as we unfold their stories with candor and detail.
I'm super happy to have you here, Dimitris. I've known you for a little while now, and I would love to kind of hear the more kind of in depth and the earlier journey of Intelligencia. So from the day zero, which was a few years back.
Mathilda,
May-
Niko, thank you for having me. I have been listening to some of the podcasts. It's an amazing effort. And I love the latest one, the Acumino. So good to be here.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I have not had the pleasure of meeting you in person like Matt, but I'm always fascinated when I see innovations in both the technology and the life sciences, sort of that intersection. And what you have done really hit that nail in the head. So for our listeners, we're very excited to have with us today Dimitris Skaltsas, the co-founder and CEO of Intelligencia AI, a pioneering company transforming drug development through AI-driven risk assessment and predictive analysis. Dimitris focuses on de-risking of the pharmaceutical pipelines and optimizing the development process for more efficient and successful outcomes. Under his leadership, Intelligencia bridges cutting-edge AI with the pharmaceutical industry's need for innovation and precision. Thanks so much, Dimitri, for being here with us today.
Thank you. And I appreciate the kind intro.
So I did my intro, but we always like to give our speakers, as you know, the chance to give their own versions of an intro, or what founders very commonly known as the elevator pitch. So assume that we are stuck in an elevator. We're going to a real high floor. So you have 3 minutes to introduce yourself and what you have built. What would you say about Intelligencia and your journey with it?
Thank you. Well, likely I'll use one or less than one. We're a technology company in life sciences. So we help accelerate drug development. We've been around now for 7 years. We started in the US, so we're headquartered in New York. We have a major R&D hub in Athens, Greece, where I grew up. Um, we work mostly with large pharmaceutical companies, typically R&D, sometimes BTNL functions, the ones who in-license or acquire from others. We're the first ones to apply AI before AI became the password that it is nowadays. We were the first ones to apply AI in assessing probability of success for new therapies. And and around this, we've built an ecosystem of decision support solutions. It's embedded in software, so the go-to-market model is software as a service. Practically, we provide our users with access to a user interface. We innovate, we drive the space forward, and we have been very fortunate to be working with some of the most iconic and some of the most important drug development pharmaceutical companies worldwide.
Can I get Dimitris's kind of 1 minute elevator pitch just to get to know you better?
Yeah, I guess it all starts with a why. So for me, it's why life science, why entrepreneurship, why intelligence. Much of my family side, they have been in life sciences. Somehow I have created a value system that receives reward, ethical reward by providing support services to other people through healthcare. Like my dad used to be a general surgeon, physician. Always used to get phone calls by people and flowers, and yeah, I love that aspect. So I've studied very different things. Like I've studied law and engineering, and at some point in my life, I started business management consulting, and I had the opportunity to go into healthcare and life science, and I dropped it, and I've never looked back. So yeah, I guess life science for me because of my experiences and corresponding values. Also R&D because I love innovation. I love creating new things. It's mind blowing what it takes to bring a new drug to the patients. I love the process. I love the people. Yeah, entrepreneurship. Again, again, I think it's a bit. It goes back to my character. Like I love doing things a bit differently. I love innovating. I see meaning in bring people together in a group and creating something. So that's a more personal story. If I had to take maybe also the 30,000 feet view, we often don't realize life sciences has been such a critical, such an important part of our lives. Like 100 years back, most of the people used to live 20, 30, 40 years. So many babies used to die, like, in the first days or months of their lives. And now life expectancy is at 80 years in the Western world, right? And much of this has happened through better delivery of healthcare and better drugs. And what also people don't realize, so there's a very positive aspect to life sciences, like it has been changing the expectancy and the quality for life. What also people don't realize is often is how hard and how costly and how risky this endeavor is. Like to bring in a new drug and a new therapy in oncology and cancer to the patients, it takes about 15 plus years. Like it takes 5 to 7 years in the drug discovery space, where the scientists we come up with a new idea and create this into a drug and formulate this and test it into animals, and then it takes another 8 to 10 years typically on average to test this new drug on humans, healthy humans and then patients, right? And it costs also a lot of money in the hundreds of millions, sometimes in the billions. And 90 to 95% of those drugs actually are not successful in the sense of getting regulatory approval. So they don't get the patients. So that's where we come into the picture, like help make people better decisions and accelerate drug development and bring better therapies to the patients faster.
The regulatory question is really something we would like to get back to later because it's very interesting when it comes to innovation. But I think before that, we'd like to take the journey more back to the start, Matt. Don't you agree?
Yes. So actually, even before we go on kind of how you built and started commercializing Intelligentsia, I just want to get into Dimitris's brain. Okay. Can you walk me through a big decision you had to make for Intelligentsia and kind of help us unfold how you made the decision?
That's a good one. It's been a series of big decisions and sometimes as, a stroke of luck. But one good example is when we have a strategic partnership, like with a big consultant and technology company in our space. And it has been a major decision because it has altered a bit of what do we do and how we work in the space. It has significant financial impact, operational impact, and also stakeholder management impact. Working with strategics can be seen both in a positive light, but also no. So at the time when we're making a decision, one we had to decide if we do something like this, and then also who the partner would be, because we had options. And I think life usually works like that. Like when one path opens, what I have observed is that often another path opens, even momentarily, and you have to make a decision and then converts back to the path
Yeah.
you picked, right? I like to say that I operate on instinct, but through a very deliberate process. So when I have pattern recognition, then I'm fast, like I move fast. When I don't have sufficient pattern recognition, then initially there is some hypothesis, there is some instinct, and I like to get my facts right. I like to engage with people, get data, problem solve. And then at some point, you have to take also the leap of faith, right? And that's what happened back then. So, I didn't have pattern recognition. We had not worked with partners in the past. I had a strong sense that companies who are successful in the space and companies who have impact, often they have it through network effects. Often you don't rely only on your own strengths, but you cooperate, you collaborate, you build bridges with others. So that has been a guiding principle in the company. And then, went through a process where we engaged with some potential partners. We got the data right. We engaged with investors, advisors. We learned more about overall business implications of working with a partner, pros and cons, what you may face down the road. And then we got smarter on the specifics, cultural fit, strategic fit, financial value. And that's where we landed on the partnership that we have right now. So that has been a big decision for the company because it has also helped us augment the presence in our space. Like last year, with this partner who is a tunnel partner effectively for the company, we touch few dozens companies out there. So we have a lot of direct relationships with companies in the space. I will cover more than 35% of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies, which is huge for a scale-up company. At the same time, we have an outsized, disproportionate presence in the space through our channel partner, because the industry can see us also through them.
So I'm definitely keeping the pattern recognition, kind of the gut feeling wherever you can linking back to the former, and definitely kind of advising through your kind of the people that are closer to you.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, let's go back to your early days, and I would like you to tell us a bit more about the first moment you felt that okay, I'm onto something. I've launched my MVP, and there's this kind of traction. How did it feel? Like, how many users were you touching? How many clients you were touching?
There are many moments. There have many big moments in the company, and it's not just the MVPs, right? It keeps happening. There was a moment of, aha, when we founded the company. Obviously, it was early days and it was all rosy and being loved. Then when we got the MVP and got the first results, that was a huge moment. I was like 6 to 9 months into the building of the company, and I'm like, "Oh, we cracked it. We solved it. We're getting results for the first time." Then it took us many more months. Then we raised some money because initially it was fully bootstrapped, and then it took us quite some time actually to convince the first customers to pay money for what we had.
How long?
Remember, the first paid customer probably happened 15 months to a year and a half into the life of the company. That's a long time. And remember, these were huge, multi-billion pharmaceutical organizations. So some of the hardest companies to break into. And, the feeling was joy, but also that came with responsibility, a sense of responsibility that I had not experienced before at Intelligent AI, because now you have to deliver something and you have to prove those people right, the people who took a bet on you. So a lot of sleepless or not sleepless, a lot of long nights, a lot of long weekends, a handful of us in the office working, cracking code, getting things done at the very last minute sometimes. And it all came together quite nicely. Yeah, and then we had, another major moment was strategic partnership. Then when we started scaling up, another major moment actually is this year. Like we doubled our customer base and we started investing more purposefully in building a scalable commercial team last year. And I know we start seeing the fruit of the labor of the investment. And that's a major moment.
Thanks for sharing that.
There's no doubt you operate in this very impactful zone, but it's also highly technical and regulated industry, right? At the same time, you touched upon this before. So I'm curious, how do you navigate the challenges of applying automation and AI into a domain that is regulated and really high stakes? How does it help you scale up the surface?
I'll start with the basics. It is a highly regulated space for all the right reasons, for all the good reasons. Again, people's lives are at stake. You bring a new therapy to market, you have to prove that it's at least as effective. Most of the times, it's more effective than previous drugs, and it does not harm, right? Controlled safety toxicity. Now that means that the bar is very high for anyone working in the industry. The bar is super high. In our case, it starts with data because we do AI. So carpet in, carpets out. Often we discuss with our customers, we communicate trusted AI. Trusted AI means that people have to trust our data initially. So we have invested a lot as a company towards the comprehensiveness and the granularity and the quality of our data. And that's a combination of data pipelines with harmonization, with some AI, with experts in the loop, with human in the loop. Yeah, that's how initially we navigate or we build trust. And what we have also done over time is we have been showing results, presenting prospective results. Like we have been working with some of the major organizations in the industry. We would track what do we do? We track the outcomes of the algorithm and if they were right or wrong over time. And that's what we present to the users. And that's competitive advantage. If you think about newcomers in the space, it takes some time to build this track record that yes, AI works.
In my experience in all the startups that I worked, or most of the startups I worked in, it's been sell it and then we'll actually
Build it.
create it. Exactly. Was the approach similar in this space, or you actually have to
Yeah.
have nailed something before you go out and sell it?
We're a non-typical startup or scale-up company, technology company. So, but we're about 100 people now, so and working with several companies. So much more in the scale-up company and in a more mature stage of our development, right? Yeah, we're unconventional, and then maybe that's driven by our personalities, partially driven also by the space that we operate. It's hard to build trust, if you break it once, then it's very hard to restore it. So what we've done is we built something. Now, obviously, it's not as advanced as it was not as advanced as it is nowadays, but we built something first, we tested it, we built confidence in that first, and then we took it to the market. I had often got the advice to do the other way around,
Reverse.
and it's very common that build fast, fail fast, test things out. But practically, what has happened is we've built the basics of what we do. We built a core foundation, strong fundamentals, and then what has been happening is we have been learning from the feedback of our users and we have been iterating over years. The initial core of the product has expanded a lot by direct feedback from the market. Initially, though, it was a leap of faith. Like we knew there was a need because both myself and my co-founder were in the space. I was leading I was at McKinsey with a consulting company. I was leading what we called new ventures for pharmaceutical R&D. Pretty much early days of AI, applying AI and big data into building solutions for pharmaceutical R&D, discovery and development. So I had a long list of bright ideas, like holy trails in the space. What we started as a company has been on that list, and no one was daring, no one was taking a risk to do something because it was untested. There was no institutional patience, so risk appetite for that. So we knew that there was need. We had connected with people in the industry. We knew there was need. Um, the technical implementation was completely or was unknown, and we hold the patent now for what we did back in the day. But yeah, we took a leap of faith. We took the long approach of building something first and then iterating continuously with with customers, and I think it has been paying off because we have been building trust with our partners.
And can I ask you something? So, Intelligentsia is adding value in the kind of early stages of drug development.
Yeah.
Do you foresee that continuing in the future? Is it where you see the most value for Intelligentsia, or kind of there are other areas in that process
Mm.
that you could add value?
That's a good one. Most of our users are in portfolio strategy and BDNL, and increasingly, some of our partners ask us to build more things in broader clinical development. And this is because they come to appreciate the value and the power of our data. Once they In order to create what we have created, we had to bring together a very comprehensive, very granular, very high quality database, and on that grounds, we have been building more applications, adjacent applications, and that covers more broadly clinical development. Now, do I expect it will go into discovery? Most likely, no. There are big established players there, and they know what they do. Do you expect we go into commercial? Partially, we work with commercial. Partially, we work with drug discovery, but or late stage preclinical. But our core has been clinical development, and I expect where we start with something more niche, very critical, very high value generating, but more niche. Now we're expanding and we're building more comprehensive suite of AI powered solutions in clinical development. And that's where Intelligencia plays.
You mentioned already the importance of trust in data or the trust that results bring, right, in the field. I'm wondering if there's a third element here in the approach when you want to generate more trust and more adoption among your clients, which is this idea of storytelling. So, how do you package the data or the results that you deliver so that you get more clients on board?
Again, I believe in storytelling and I love telling stories myself. Now, remember, we're in a space that's highly technical. Most of our customers are people who, the whole PhDs are highly sophisticated, they're very technical people, and they trust data and results more than storytelling. The way it works with us is when I present to a customer, typically I will provide an overview of the company, then I will discuss values because that's how relationships are built, personal and professional relationships. I will discuss who we are fundamentally, and then I will discuss what makes us distinct. And that's a bit of storytelling, like that's a narrative. Unlike though from potentially what you will see in other spaces or what you will see in B2C. It's a different storytelling depending on the audience. With my customers, storytelling is much more about building credibility based on the fact that a lot of significant organizations work with us, based on the fact that we have a proven track record of results, based on the fact that we have high quality data. When I connect externally, for instance, if I connect with other entrepreneurs, then it's more about some of the personal elements that you have also been working to surface here. It's about personal motivation. It's about challenges you have faced, decision making, and so on and so forth. When you connect to investors, it's more about building the broader need and the broader opportunity in the space. So why should someone care? Different types of storytelling and different ways to do the storytelling.
Of course, the audience plays a big role, but I'm actually curious as you're speaking of whether you tailor also your story depending on whether you speak to Europeans or Americans.
Yes and no. Often, one of our values is being humble, which I often joke with our US customers as an American values, right? Um,
Definitely.
yeah, I will spin it all like this with Europeans. I don't have say anything. There are parts of this, yeah, there are parts of the story that are different. Also, yeah, how you project the future, how how bold you are. Like by personality, I'm a person who I think I love dreaming, I love creating, I love building. I'm more grounded, like in the way I come across. I'm grounded. With the US audience, probably I will pump it up a bit so that I come across as grounded and not as too low profile because people are trained in a different way. So yes, you do adjust.
And as we're in the European versus kind of US side of things, I know that you have clients started from the US, but now spans between the US and Europe. You have actually an R&D center here in Greece as well. How do you see Europe and even Greece kind of playing a role in this growth strategy?
Yeah. Often I say internally that even though we have a significant R&D hub in Greece, we employ more than 80, 90 people currently in Greece. Not only Greeks, by the way. There are people from multiple countries. We could have been anywhere. Like the whole company could have been Flatiron in New York, or it could have been only in the US, or it could have been we could have had R&D hubs elsewhere, right? Um, there is a reason why we came to Greece. It's an emotional reason. Like when we started the company, both me and my co-founder are Greek, so we want to have a stronger connection to the country. But there's also a very practical reason. With all this drain initially during the financial crisis, a lot of people left the country. and that was a blessing in disguise in many ways because they got educated even better. They got opportunities to expose themselves to some more advanced working environments in certain sectors, right? So there was an opportunity, and there has been an opportunity for us to cherry pick talent, and that we have consistently done. In terms of retention, it's much better than in the US. In the US, people almost feel compelled every year or two to move to another company and expand their network, write something new to their resume, and the financials very practically work better. We provide, I think, a great environment, great benefits, a great working environment, and people I think are generally content, increase, and that shows in our retention rate. It's still significantly less expensive than the US, and that has enabled us to grow as fast and as much as we have without too much external funding, without too many dependencies.
And on the same topic of competitive advantage, if you will, I mean, there's been some great European success stories in pharma. I'm thinking Novo Nordisk as an obvious one story. So do you think pharma could be one of Europe's good horses in the global race for competitiveness and innovation?
It could, and I hope so. I mean, Europe does need, more innovation. Does need some companies who are leaders in their space. And often I feel we're being left behind as Europeans. Like I live in the States, there's so much investment behind AI. Now there's this discussion about Trump appointing an AI czar in the US and so on and so forth. And and people often joke, and Mathilda were together in an event the other day where someone said, the US beats or innovates, China copies, Europe regulates. There is some truth, some bitter truth in that. And even though the European environment has grown, technology landscape and startup scale up landscape has grown by a lot over the last 10 years. And kudos to some central planning for that. This is still not enough. This is far from enough. Now, I don't have any personal interest. It may come across, but I don't have any personal interest because, again, we're a US company. Most of our customers are in the US or they're global companies, and I don't get anything specifically from any government in Europe, right? But if we're thinking about European technology ecosystem, there needs to be an awakening because AI is moving really fast, and European countries or the European economy is at risk of being left behind. What is happening is not enough.
So before closing our conversation today, which I very much enjoyed, I have a question. Are you afraid more of failure or success?
That's really good. I think generally I'm driven by positive feelings of creating and bring something new to the market and to places, right? That's a major force. Now that said, there is also fear in me, and I think most people, in all people, unless we're not superhumans. That's part of, you know, the instincts, and often it's positive because it helps create some boundaries. You sometimes I get dizzy by when I think too high, too fast, too far away. I get dizzy and it's scary. No one has ever asked me in my even my personal life about this, but it happens. Failure, it's also a driving force. Yes, I do get scared. I think all of us entrepreneurs experience near death experiences again and again. People outside the space so hard to connect to that, but it's like you're a nascent organization in a jungle, and you struggle to and you fight to survive. You fight for survival. You want to get your food, and at the same time make sure that someone else doesn't eat you out, right? But you get used to that, so you learn to operate like this. It doesn't mean you don't have sleepless nights or you don't wake up at 5 a.m. sometimes, but you get used to that with the the fear of success are completely different. So like, yeah, sometimes you need to be very strong with yourself. So, like to be disciplined and say, yes, we can succeed, we can go after this. We deserve that opportunity. The company can grow at that scale and outgrow yourself because many or most entrepreneurs are first time entrepreneurs. So you haven't gone through the full cycle. So you have to constantly push your own boundaries. And that's scary and that's tiring at the same time. So definitely there is something about self-worth and about ability. Yeah, it's one of the best questions I've ever received. So thank you, Mathilda. for that one.
Great questions, Matt, I have to say. From as a journalist, hats off. And Dimitri, thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me. Again, I've truly appreciated our discussion, but I've also enjoyed a lot the previous podcast that you have. So good luck. I hope a lot of people get tune in and benefit.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Europe Builds, where we show that the European ecosystem is no longer an underdog story.
If you like our episode and want to hear more, follow Europe Builds on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Born's YouTube channel.